rounds of Pioneer action just after a Pioneer RC, so we're gonna probably see a lot of cool stuff tonight.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what our players brought back. We actually have 2 players here tonight that have recently just come back from the RC, one of whom is on stream right now. So let's get right into the action here.
Yeah, we're going to see Frenchie over on the left, the pioneer of the Rakdos Demons deck of the format, going up against Resident Brewer Bismon on Abzan Aggro, which I am hoping is actually Abzan Aggro. Okay, I see Abzan cards. I think okay, it's his Siege Rhino deck. Okay, it's his Siege Rhino deck, which, funnily enough, I did see there was a Siege Rhino deck at the RC. It did not do well.
Yeah, unfortunately. The idea is great, but in practice, maybe not so great. Frenchie just coming back from a hot streak from the RC. Unfortunately, they did go 9-5, I believe, so did not make top 64 or 32, which is required to make it to the Pro Tour, but had a very strong showing day one. Just went 7-2, primarily off of this Demons deck with a lot of cards from Duskmourn, actually.
Yeah, but right now we're just seeing a lot of Pioneer staples here. Thoughtseize, Llanowar, Alpha Fatal Push, and a Sheoldred's Edict. And then we're going to see Bismon calling up here with a Oath of Nissa. That's going to ping him down off of that Llanowar Waste. And he'll find himself an Elvish Mystic, which he gets to play just off of that tap Brushland, which I believe will be another damage going his way.
Yeah, unfortunately, as we all know, 3-color decks are a little bit hard to make happen in Pioneer. No fetches, you know, triumphs are a little slow, so trying to still stay aggressive, but being on 3 colors, you tend to have to play a lot of pain lands, unfortunately.
Yeah, and we do wind up seeing here on Frenchie's side, this is a card that they did not have in the RC deck, but wound up figuring out it was a missing piece of the puzzle. This is FOMO.
Fear of missing out, breakout champion, I would say, from Duskmourn. If you don't know, 2 mana comes down 2/3. Loots as it enters, and also when you have Delirium, you get an extra combat with one of your creatures each turn.
Yeah, and just taking a quick look at Frenchie's side of the things, it looks like there are only creature, instant, and sorcery, so not quite at the Delirium portion for FOMO to get that extra combat step, but this one is just going to be a looting effect. It's going to be able to do some awesome things, especially when you combined it with a second FOMO. That's going to pitch a land, and that's Delirium. There's a Mutavault that can be activated off of this as well, and yeah, Frenchie's going to want to come across for a lot of damage here and 2 combat steps. That should be 6 altogether.
Yeah, looks like it. So FOMO, very, very powerful. I think Frenchie being able to run it in a shell that's not necessarily reliant on Delirium, but Delirium's kind of the sweet cherry on top, I think is very powerful. Because I've seen the Gruul Delirium package making big waves in Pioneer, but, you know, since that deck is completely reliant on Delirium, Graveyard kind of tends to hate it out of the game, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, and with this Rakdos Demons deck, it's very similar to the Mono Black Demons deck, where it's going to be using the Bloodletter of Aclazotz and the Unstoppable Slasher combination to just kind of one-shot somebody Splinter Twin style. But Frenchie is going to be packing a couple of extra red spells alongside of that. But Bismon here is going to be putting something a little bit dangerous in Frenchie's way. That is a blast from Pioneer Past. Siege Rhino hits the table.
Siege Rhino is here. I actually did play against Bismon last week when he also brought this deck. So it's, you know, Abzan colors, obviously. It's playing a lot of Siege Rhinos, but it's also playing stuff like the new Tyvar from Duskmourn, being able to pump a bunch of mana into your creatures and give them +X/+X and Trample, I believe. Trample Indestructible. And also stuff like Huntsman Redemption, being able to function as a 1-turn pump spell for the rest of the team.
Yeah, meanwhile, we do see one of those namesake demon cards coming out from Frenchie's side. That is going to wind up being an Archfiend of the Dross that hits the table. Bismon did wind up playing a card that I'm not quite too familiar with at first glance. I mean, maybe we can get like a quick little zoom in here, and not entirely sure what that one is going to be completely honest. But it's hit the table alongside a Siege Rhino, so it's probably going to be packing a punch.
I have no idea what that is. I think it's an OTJ card, but I am not familiar.
No, we'll take a look at that one really quick just to kind of see what could be going on. And in the meantime, the turn has been passed back to Frenchie. Now with this giant 6/6 flyer in the air, any sort of removal spells Frenchie has is also going to be turned on into basically a 2 damage drain type effect if they're able to remove things from Bismon's side. But at the same exact time, looks like Frenchie might be thinking about keeping it back, but nope, there's going to be a swing in for 6.
Oh, Thoughtseize coming out at the end of turn. Yeah, getting an extra combat step with some big evasive creature like Archfiend of the Dross is very, very powerful here. Although it doesn't seem like Frenchie wanted to swing in with the FOMOs. It would have been kind of funny, actually, if you swung in with the FOMO each combat step.
If you did, I mean, you wind up getting, what, 2 attacks on the Archfiend of the draws?
It would be 3, technically, wouldn't it?
Oh,
If
right,
you
'cause they
split it. Yeah.
stack. I'm wondering if that might have been the play there, but instead it looks like just a single attack, and Bisbon's just going to be playing some lands and passing. Has a Mana Confluence from the earlier turns in hand, and just one unknown card. It looks like Frenchie might be hellbent at this point.
Yeah. Mutavault coming in, so Frenchie's going in for the swing here.
This is going to be a lot of damage coming across, and with those FOMOs, it's going to be no Mo Bismon. That's going to be game 1 going to Frenchie.
Wow, this really showcases the power that demons have, but also this becomes Frenchie's kind of incentive for playing red. I know Mono Black Demons actually did very, very well at the RC this weekend. We had quite a few people day 2 with it, and I think we had one of our players also make it to the PT with it.
Oh yeah, I think it was 14th place. I think they wound up getting with the deck. I think the highest placing version of the Mono Black Demons deck as well. But the deck overall had like, I want to say it was like a 53.8% win rate. Yeah, I have these numbers memorized for some god-awful reason. It's like I did a video on it or something.
Optimus Tom TV on YouTube.
There you go. Yeah, so the Mono Black Demons deck really capitalized on just the power of having 12 creatures, just kind of backed up by that solid Mono Black mid-range control-y type shell, and it just wound up being a very powerful force in the format overall, which is just like, it's not incredibly awkward to see, because I mean, when you're looking at basically all the old Rakdos lists too, it was basically a black deck splashing red for like Fable the Mirror Breaker and a couple of other things, but there wasn't necessarily like hard like Hazarets or anything like that from the red side that were going to be added to this deck. So the Mono Black shell just continues to persevere, even though it lost its vampire kind of combine.
Yeah, honestly, because before, when Frenchie ran this at the RC, they actually didn't have many red cards. There's obviously FOMO here today, but before they just had Fable the Mirror Breaker main board and then some Torch the Towers on the side. So I think like adding FOMO here, it kind of proves that, you know, being in Rakdos colors is the correct choice instead of being mono black and trying to avoid some of the shock land pain and the kind of awkwardness of mana you might end up with.
And you also kind of just get that additional card filtering spell. So now you have Fable the Mirror Breaker to kind of filter away 2. You have FOMO to filter away 1. You have the new room as well from Duskmourn, where you kind of just, or you're able to like, I think it's draw a card, and if you have a demon, yeah, Unholy Annex Ritual Chamber, thank you. At the beginning of your end step, you get to draw a card, and if you control a demon, you siphon 2 life from your opponent. Otherwise, it's just you losing 2 life. And then, like, in the worst case scenario, you can always just turn it into a giant 6/6 demon. But that kind of synergy is there from this demons deck, which kind of gives you the namesake.
Yeah, and also, despite the fact that Frenchie isn't running a lot of dual type cards in this deck, FOMO kind of helps you get to Delirium by itself. FOMO itself counting for 2 types if you ever manage to discard it, but also running not just Fable, but also, like you said, the Room, Unholy Annex / Ritual Chamber for extra enchantments, and then your instant sorcery, and then land. So there's actually a fair amount of ways for them to get a Delirium here, and I think that is really important, trying to trigger FOMO.
Yeah, on the flip side, though, Bismon is just going to be trying to beat down what kind of like the latest and greatest hits from Pioneer and Standards past. I mean, the Abzan deck is kind of one of those, they used to call the archetype junk, right? Because it was literally a pile of the best cards that did the mid-range thing very, very well together. So Bismon's deck is going to be trying to lay heavy hitter after heavy hitter and doesn't necessarily have the same synergy that we're seeing out of some of the moving parts from Frenchie's deck.
Yeah, unfortunately. Although Bismon's deck can put together some very powerful turns. Like I was saying before, Huntsman's Redemption, the Saga that gives you a beast, lets you search something from your deck, and then on turn 3 of it coming down, +2/+2ing your team, also giving them a trample, I believe. Very, very powerful. So this one's plan is kind of just to try and fade the first couple turns, and then, you know, get his Siege Rhinos, his Beasts, and then eventually Tyvar as well online to try and you know, punch through that bit of damage that Frenchie won't be able to deal with easily.
And we did wind up seeing Frenchie being on the play that game number 1 being very effective because of the elves that Bismon is trying to get to accelerate that mana cost early. If there are more fatal pushes, like we're going to see right here, elf for fatal push. If there's another elf for fatal push, that's probably going to be going very well for Frenchie in game number 2 as well.
Yeah, like I was saying, Bismon wants to see that fast mana, try and get to his later turn stuff earlier. So, you know, trying to take care of the elves here. Oh, Anathotsi's coming out. Very, very effective. Is that the same card we were trying to figure out?
I've honestly still been trying to figure out.
Tristani, is that it?
Oh, that's the new Tristani from MKM, right?
Yeah, yeah. I believe so. I just remembered Bismon did play this against me.
All right, yeah, Tristani, 3 Whispers. Good eyes there, good eyes. This is going to be a pretty good card overall. I mean, I've seen this card do ridiculous things in standard, and I've seen it do ridiculous things in limited formats as well. But giving things basically an option of Death Touch, Vigilance, Double Strike, doing all sorts of like things almost like level up style. You get to kind of choose your own adventure with this card. But for most importantly, most of them only cost 1 or 2 mana to do so.
Yeah, it's definitely insane. Bismon trying to be a big mana value deck. Having somewhere to spend his mana when he's not holding it up for interaction is kind of exactly where he wants to be at. You know, you have your Siege Rhino, your 4/5 Trampler, all of a sudden you give it double strike. You know, if you're not careful, that'll just take you out.
Exactly, but unfortunately for Bismon, it looks like that with that timely Thoughtseize from Frenchie, had a bunch of lands and a Siege Rhino in hand, but is actually able to find himself a Smuggler's Copter for the turn, so that's going to be left unmanned for a little while, but we are going to wind up seeing a Siege Rhino potentially fit inside that Copter soon.
What a funny image, but okay, Unholy Annex, Ritual Chamber coming down, so that's the Unholy Annex side we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and unfortunately it will be a sideways card.
But that's okay. But if you can't read it, it says at the beginning of your end step, draw a card. If you control a demon, each opponent loses 2 life, otherwise, and then you gain 2 life. Otherwise, if you don't have a demon, you'll just lose 2 life. In the other half of the room, Ritual Chamber, spend 5 mana, you make your own demon. You know, if you can't find your Archfiend Dross, DIY Archfiend Dross.
Yeah, so looks like here, though, that Siege Rhino is just going to fit inside that Smuggler's Copter and just swing Frenchie all the way down to 10. But now with this
Bloodletter
Aclazotz, that's going to be an Unholy Annex that is not going to be hurting Frenchie anymore. Instead, it will be helping Frenchie.
Yeah, kind of the power of Unholy Annex here. If your deck works, you know, who cares about the downsides, right? It's only plus.
It looks like Bismon did not gain the life off of the Siege Rhino entering the battlefield. Just did the damage to Frenchie. So Bismon has himself at 19. So we are going to reflect what the players are tracking right here. But Bloodletter of Aclazotz is going to start adding up a lot of damage really quickly here from Frenchie's side, as it's basically just going to be doubling everything he's able to do. But at this point in time, this is a 2/4 flyer versus a 4/5 trampler. Sorry, a pair of 4/5 tramplers.
Yeah, so it will block Smuggler's Copter, but it can't really do anything against Siege Rhino. So I think that's what Bismon is hoping for. I will say Bloodletter of Aclazotz actually synergizes extremely well with Unholy Annex, because the Annex also drains your opponent for 2. So all of a sudden you're dealing them 4 for drawing an extra card every turn.
And we are going to wind up seeing this Smuggler's Copter can actually attack. This is going to bounce off the Bloodletter if Bismon wants to do that, and it'll let him loot away that card in hand if it's something that he doesn't want to hold on to without needing to sacrifice the Smuggler's Copter. But Bismon may be considering, okay, like, what am I going to be able to die to here? Probably knows about the combo of the 2 cards that Frenchie is going to be running, but that doesn't have haste, so that's not going to be a threat here. And instead, Frenchie is just going to wind up going for that chump block. Bismon swings them down to 4, and now Frenchie's in a little bit of a trouble spot.
Yeah, Frenchie will gain 2 more life at the end of this turn, but that only brings them up to 6. So if Bismon has another Siege Rhino or some way to pump his team here, I think that might be a game here.
Man, imagine if you were to Mockingbird Siege Rhino, just so you could have an additional Siege Rhino.
I would hope so, but honestly, 4-color? I don't think Bismon needs any more pain lands here.
And it looks like this is a nice little kind of synergy here. The Unholy Annex at the beginning of your end step, if you would draw a card, you drain and everything. So Bismon's actually going to wind up losing 4 life altogether, because that will still get doubled by the fact that this Bloodletter of Aclazotz is happening. And it looks like this is in Frenchie's end step still, looking at a... Yep, the Shield's Edict's going to hit, and that's going to sacrifice one of those Siege Rhinos. Oh, double torch the tower to exile the remaining Siege Rhino as well. So Frenchie just hand loaded full of removal, and now looks pretty solid on this board.
Yeah, Frenchie still has a grip full of cards, so looking at empty board to empty board, Frenchie is actually a little ahead here, seeing as Bismon has 2 cards in hand, I think?
I believe there's 2 cards in hand, and Frenchie did have to bargain away the Unholy Annex, though, so only left with their Bloodletter in play. But Bloodletter versus Smuggler's Copter, Bloodletter's looking pretty good here.
Yeah, let's see. If Bismon is able to draw, I don't know, a Tristani and a land, you might be able to get through, you know, give Copter Death Touch, try and kill the Bloodletter. Oh, second one.
Looks like Bismon just wound up passing the turn, and Bloodletter in pairs is going to be very, very powerful here, as now Frenchie can get a bit aggressive, but Wandering Emperor. Man, this is what we call junk for a reason. It's the greatest and latest hits of the Abzan colors. Wandering Emperor just going to exile one of those Bloodletters.
And gain 2 lives, so pretty relevant here. More importantly, Bismon's going to be able to make a Samurai with it next turn if he's okay with losing it, and then immediately crew the Copter and try and loot away what's in his hand.
Yeah, unless there's maybe like an elf in hand, because I could just crew the Copter straight up, and then this all of a sudden you can plus the Smuggler's Copter, and that could be threatening Frenchie's life total.
Yeah, oh, there's the elf. Oh, this is amazing. Just exactly what you said there.
I mean, so Frenchie will go down to 1 if they take this hit.
2 cards in hand. They might have to here. Okay, so binning another land for Bismon. I wonder what he's keeping in hand. Frenchie looking at the life total very carefully here.
Yeah, this is precarious. Now, Frenchie, yep, looks like they're just going to wind up going down to 1. 1 is not dead, so there's always that.
Oh, there it is. Huntsmaster's Redemption?
Yeah.
Huntsman's Redemption? Something Redemption.
As I believe it's the Huntsman's Redemption, but yeah, this is just going to be kind of like a cherry on top here from Bismon. If something winds up happening, you may be able to just sacrifice away that elf later on and find your game-winning threat next turn. So very powerful saga, and if it sticks around for Chapter 3, we've seen it overrun and do some silly things.
Yeah, oh, Unholy Annex coming in again, so draining Bismon, gaining Frenchie another card, and also gaining 2 life. So not immediately dead here on board for Frenchie. Oh, actually, no, pretty dead. The beast there. So Frenchie had to find an answer.
And say Frenchie could potentially have Fatal Push or something. That would be enough. You can block 1 with the Bloodletter. Looks like there's a land, something I can't really see, and maybe a second land, a swamp, a dual land, and something else in Frenchie's hand. But Bismon now untaps. We got to draw, and now we're deciding what do we want to do with this the Huntsman's Revenge, because if we sacrifice an elf or we sacrifice something to crew, this could get a little dangerous, but Bismon's going to activate the crew ability of the Smuggler's Copter with the elf, and then sack the elf away to potentially just find the game-winning, I don't know, Siege Rhino?
I think so. That's what I would do here.
Man, Siege Rhino is such a good card in the year of our Lord and Savior Richard Garfield 2024.
Siege Rhino cleaning it up here. So 1-1 for our players here, you know, like... It's kind of insane. We're seeing the latest and greatest tech from the RC putting up a very even fight against what we were calling Abzan trash.
Hold on. It's okay. So it's Abzan junk. And it's literally because it's just a pile of Abzan
right?
cards that do good things. And so Bismon's deck does have a little bit more synergy than I guess we gave him credit for, because the Huntsman's Redemption, being able to find a Siege Rhino, sacrifice your elf just to get it onto the battlefield. I mean, it's one of those, it's a saga as well, so it triggers after your draw on your upkeep, so you can float the mana, play the Siege Rhino as soon as you find it. So there are some cool little synergies there, and we saw how integral actually those elves were to Bismon's game plan. Game number 1, Frenchie answered the first 2 elves, and Bismon kind of stalled on mana, trying to just throw down 4 and 5 drops and do extra black removal. But with the elves in play that game, Bismon was able to do a lot of stuff thanks to Smuggler's Copter, thanks to being able to just play multiple things a turn.
Yeah, exactly. The deck really thrives on having, you know, your 4th mana, your 5th mana, and not being able to get there quickly just kind of means you're not doing anything against your opponent. Yeah. Obviously, Bismon is in Abzan color, so he has access to some degree of removal, like we saw from the Wandering Emperor there, but it's not his, you know, his main game plan, so it's kind of hard to say what he boarded out and what he actually has options for. But well, Bismon is going to be on the draw here, so hopefully that won't cost him the game being a little bit slower.
I mean, Frenchie has the option of the classic black deck conundrum of do I Fatal Push or do I Thought Seize? Either way, I'm getting rid of an elf if it's in your hand. Interestingly enough, I know that like these Abzan decks, Abzan Midrange, Abzan Control of like old standard, even if you want to go back that far, from Bisman's side, they used to run things like Sylvan Caryatid in order to kind of bridge the gap in that colored mana, but we did wind up seeing Bisman playing Elvish Mystic and Llanowar Elf, so he probably doesn't have the Hexproof mana dork, which means that Frenchie's probably going to be thinking about keeping up those Fatal Pushes on turn 1.
Hexproof. Oh, Paradise Druid?
Oh no, I'm talking about the Sylvan Caryatid, the 0/3, yeah. I mean, Paradise Druid works too. I mean, that's a hexproof mana dork as well. Just that one loses it when it gets tapped.
It's okay once it gets mana. But let's see what our players have. I see a Fable. Is that double Thought Seize in Frenchie's hand?
Double Thought Seize is basically the same as like holding up the Fatal Push on turn 1, as Frenchie's going to get a good look at Bisman's hand, and so will we, as we see Elf, Emperor, Glissa.
Glissa Sunslayer?
Yeah, that's quite a hand. You know that Glissa makes all of those Archfiends of the Dross look a lot worse, and Frenchie's going to get that one right out of there.
Yeah, gonna have to. If Bismon manages to connect with that, with Archfiend out on the field, that's just kind of game over.
Yeah, now Frenchie kind of looks at that hand and says, okay, you can have double Elf because I'm going to take away your Wandering Emperor. So now you're just stuck on Elf from Bisman's side, and now you're in top deck mode. So, you know, Rakdos doing the Rakdos thing.
Yeah, Thoughtseize is very powerful. Frenchie having 4 Aclazotz, also 2 mainboard Duresses, as well as 1 sideboard Duress. Like, having all the options to stall your opponent until you get what you want.
All right, time for Pioneer All-Star, Fable the Mirror Breaker hitting the battlefield, and all of a sudden these elves do not look like they want to attack anymore.
Multi-format Pro Tour All-Star Fable the Mirror Breaker.
I mean, it's just a 3 mana enchantment. How much harm could it do?
Only 3 mana. How many PTs does the thing win?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of tournaments this card has won, and Bismuth just finds a 3rd elf and passes the turn, so now Frenchie's going to be able to loot away a 3rd Thoughtseize in a land. Okay, so we have sorcery, land. So we're nowhere near Delirium quite yet. But Mutavault for the turn. This Fable the Mirror Breaker Shaman token can probably just attack and make mana if we want to, but don't know if we actually need to quite yet from Frenchie's side.
Yeah, because I don't think Bismon's actually interested in trading his elves here. He's at very healthy life total, and keeping all 3 elves does mean that he'll be able to play probably 2 big things next turn.
All right, a nice and oh, actually,
he is trading.
We are going to chump block. All right, so we thought Bismon was taking the damage with the hand motion there, but it looks like it is just going to be a double chump and Unholy Annex from Frenchie's side coming out.
Annex is here, and Mutavault is a demon. Oh my god, I did not even see that.
That's some pretty sick synergy right here. The creature land that becomes a creature of all types means that Bismon's going to lose that 2 life regardless, and Frenchie's going to be able to and clear the board entirely with this torch the tower coming in. So now Bismon just stuck with nothing but lands.
Mutavault, honestly, so powerful. We've seen it in the Rakdos Vampires deck. It gets extra synergy with Sorin. It gets, more elves.
You never want to see the turn 4 Llanowar Elf, and it looks like Bismon actually didn't play a land for turn either, potentially thinking of discard effects from Frenchie's side, something or other, maybe just doesn't have anything.
Oh, Frenchie making a demon here.
Ooh, we're unlocking both doors? All right, let's go.
This is what we like to see. Frenchie has 2 cards in hand, but with that Unholy Annex, and now we're constantly applying extra pressure, I think Frenchie's very healthy.
And we're going to have the ability to copy that demon as well, swing him for 12 next turn if we really want to.
Oh no, another elf. Okay, so we're looking at 12 potential damage plus 2 from the drain.
Yes.
If there's...
And we have Mutavaults too.
Oh, dang.
So we can activate swing, All-American Reject style.
I think that is close to game. That actually might be game.
It might be here because we can block 2 Mutavaults. No, it won't be quite game yet.
You can block the Mutavault, yeah. Oh, didn't animate the Mutavault, so getting in for the for sure damage here. Frenchie not having a Bloodletter though, because Bloodletter would be lethal here.
Oh yeah, and it looks like Oh, Frenchie just content to pass the turn, gets Bismon down to 2, and Bismon has a lot of work to do if he wants to try to come back into this one.
No.
It doesn't look like he's going to have it. That's going to be Frenchie taking game number 3 and taking the match. The Rakdos Demons are a little bit stronger than Abzan Dorks.
Yeah, unfortunately for Bismon, they didn't. Frenchie flashing a Pete sign at us. Congratulations, congratulations.